I found watching that quite emotional, actually. Like that's where they connected briefly. Do you know what I mean? You know, as Darcy said, that Danny was the more level-headed one. But I think in another world, like I don't think Darcy was planning on letting Lana get out alive. I don't know.
Welcome, one and all, to South by Southwest 2024. I'm Tatiana Hollander with Screen Rant, and I'm here with the Creep-tastic Oddity cast and creator. A round of applause, please. It was written and directed by Damian McCarthy and stars Gwilym Lee and Carolyn Bracken. And it follows a blind medium who visits her brother-in-law's apparently haunted home after the death of her twin sister, with nothing but a wooden mannequin in hand and vengeance in her heart. To begin with, Damian, I would love to know, where did the idea of the Oddity come from? Like this mannequin, how?
Well, I guess the story in general was kind of the... It was just a lot of different ideas that I had, but there was never really, it never really felt like a full feature that you'd get out of all of them. So it became a case of like, well, this is a really good idea, and this, or at least I thought it was a good idea. And I just found a way to weave these ideas throughout one story, build them around these characters, build them around this idea of this wooden man that can come to life through witchcraft. And that's it. Yeah, it's kind of the real start of it.
That's amazing. Carolyn, you, speaking of characters, play two of them. Who are interconnected, intertwined. But aside from the obvious difference between them, what is your way into each?
Well, I suppose it's a multitude of factors, isn't it? You know, it's the script, it's the costume design, it's the hair and makeup, it's the production design, it's all those worlds coming together to help inform the performer. And they all came at different parts of the prep. And, you know, with the script, you know, Damian did create two very different characters. So it was just about finding the broad and the fine strokes of both Danny and Darcy, finding their similarities as sisters, but as well as their differences.
Did you film a Danny scene or a Darcy scene first, and did that kind of affect then how you play the next character?
Obviously not, because I can't remember which one we started with.
We went back and forth sometimes in one day.
Yeah. Like there was a time where Danny was first, then Darcy, and then Ghost Danny, and then, you know what I mean, in the one day. So yeah,
layers upon layers.
Yeah.
And speaking of layers, Gwilym, we meet Ted, and immediately he is in mourning, and that mourning is called into question by Darcy, and yet we're rooting for you throughout. Question mark? What is the secret to playing such an affable character so suspiciously?
I'm really glad to hear you say that you're rooting for me, because that was the intention. That was our hope, was that we don't give too much away. It was always trying to play the kind of the reality of what he's doing and what he does and what he's scheming and planning, plotting, and but without showing any of that. So that's great you thought that. I guess it was kind of trying to get into the logic of the man. He's like a ridiculous sense of superiority, delusions of grandeur, an awful narcissist. Obviously none of those traits I have myself.
Obviously, so, that's where the acting comes in.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's just trying to find the logic of that character and really commit to it. Yeah.
And this was your second feature film. Your first one, Caveat, was very well received. Did that make the process of making this much easier, or is it kind of like having to top yourself, kind of getting more ambitious?
It was a much easier film to make than Caveat, for sure. I mean, Caveat was a zero budget movie. It took years to make. It was years of just asking for favors and trying to do it. So by no means was this the difficult second album. It was much smoother. Just in terms of it being compared or worrying, will it stand up? Oh, of course it's there, because Caveat, I see it's been out a few years now, and I see that it does have a little bit of a cult following. You can see more people talking about it, which is fantastic. So of course, I'd be a little bit nervous that this would be compared. It's like, oh, it's not as good as the first real indie movie, but just the reaction here at South by Southwest has been amazing. It's brilliant. So I'm really happy. And what's nice as well is I think people will go back now, and I've seen a few people talk about it, that they'll go back and are curious about Caveat. I mean, I'd be the same if I saw somebody's feature, like, oh, I wonder what else they've done. So
exactly.
I'm very happy today. Yeah.
You, Carolyn, have a lot of scenes with the mannequin. What is that experience like on set? How does it move? Share all the secrets.
On set and out of character, the initial response was like when he arrived was a bit shocking. It was a bit Christ. And then, everybody, we just kind of got used to him being around. He just became this addition to the crew. You know what I mean? There'd be dozens of crew and all of us just, meandering and operating around him. And he was just kind of this, solid fixture who was there. But I suppose with the character of Darcy, like there's a very, very strange and intimate connection between her and this apparently inanimate object, that is very powerful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's come out here with us. He's part of the family. He's traveled out to Austin. So yeah.
Couldn't leave him behind.
No, we should have brought him here.
He doesn't have much to say.
No. But, maybe he would show us what he feels.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we will never know. Gwilym, on the other hand, you get a lot of, creepy scenes in the asylum where you're almost like the straight man to a string of even more menacing beings than yourself. Can you talk about interacting with those actors and also did it inspire any campfire stories?
Any campfire
like
stories?
Horror stories that you share on set?
Oh, right. Oh, no, I don't know about that. But I love those scenes, actually. I really love working with Steve Wall, who plays Ivan. He's terrific and he's really sinister and creepy in this film. And I love their relationship, the way that it's written. It's, I think Ivan is led to believe that he's like an equal to Ted. And when he suggests that he might be, Ted's like, no, thank you very much. Such is his, level of arrogance and superiority. But yeah, it was an interesting idea to me that he was a psychiatrist, that he's kind of, I think he's learning his behavior from these people. I think he's observing and learning sociopathic behavior and how to, how to blend in yeah.
Yeah, maybe it should go the other way. Maybe as a psychiatrist, you should think about that. You should give them behavior to model. That's all right. Yeah. You do what you can. Now, Damian, I read your parents owned a VHS rental shop. That's right. Which I'm obsessed with this factoid. I think that's so awesome. Okay. Is there any horror movies that you would watch over and over again, that you would rent over and over again, that helped inspire your approach, kind of?
It's probably just growing up with that video shop, and after school, waiting for my parents to finish work to come home. You're just spending your evening inside in the looking at the VHS tapes. This would have been the 80s and early 90s as well. So I had those thick VHS copies with the old artwork and all that. I just take home all the posters. The video shops be sent posters, and my wall just be papered with Predator and Alien and all this kind of stuff.
That's so cool.
So yeah, it's constant. I don't know if there's any particular one film, but I was always in the horror section. It was always where I'd be found, just reading the backs. Even if I hadn't seen the films, I'd just be reading the back and go, I wonder what it's about. Or, so I'm sure it sparked off something in my imagination at an early age.
Did your parents have any rules about what you couldn't watch?
I think The Exorcist was probably the one thing that, I suppose early Catholic Ireland, it's like, oh, be careful because the devil, everything else was fine. There was no problem with, serial killers or,
I watched The Exorcist early and it was a mistake. So yeah. I think my parents are right.
Saw it, yeah.
You still saw it. Carolyn, I have to say, I was very nervous that Darcy was going to take her rage out on Yana in their scenes. They were filled with tension. And I was like, is it her fault? Can you talk about working with her and kind of building to a boil that relationship?
Do you know what? I found those scenes really beautiful with how they came out in the edit, because I think Darcy was like a cat playing with a mouse. Do you know what I mean? I think that she was just toying with her, because Vengeance had this. It was just this obstacle that was in the way, and that she was going to toy with her. But I think what is really beautiful and really sad about it is Danny's intervention. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. About getting Yana the hell out of there.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And I found watching that quite emotional. Actually, that's where they were they connected briefly. Do you know what I mean? As Darcy said, that Danny was the more level-headed one. But I think in another world, like I don't think Darcy was planning on letting Lana get out alive. I don't know. So
A sigh of relief in that moment. So thank you to divine intervention. On a separate note, I have to say, Gwilym, I loved The Great. And I loved you in it. I was so sad it was ripped away from me. How did you feel about ending it there? Did you want to go on for more of a journey?
Yeah, it would have been great. But the way that season 3 ended up was, there was a kind of ending of sorts anyway. So it feels right that it ended there, I think. I miss it because it was a great job and lovely people. But, all good things come to an end.
Speaking of, finally, Oddity takes place in Ireland. But, Ted's... abode does not seem particularly inviting. If each of you were trying to sell this haunted mansion or get someone to come over for dinner, how would you showcase it? What would you say in its favor?
The wooden man. He's very hospitable, He's there at the table, ready to serve.
Exactly, and he can serve you.
Great dinner guest, Can be an addition to the...
Will he eat the food?
No, he'll leave it for you.
Oh.
Do you know what I mean?
Even better.
We're all hungry, You first.
Yeah, I don't think I can top that. That's good. The wooden man is a host. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
He'll show you the sights. Thank you all so much. I had so much fun with Oddity. I cannot wait for the whole world to witness it and then go back to Caveat.
That'd be great. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a great South by.